Yeah, so I'm super excited to be leading this tutorial for all of you. So before I get started, I'm going to encourage everyone to open up the tutorial prompts Slack channel and just have that on standby. I'll also mention that all of the code that I'm going to be writing during this tutorial is already posted for you. And so that's in, actually, why don't we do this? So let me share the screen and I'll show you exactly where you can access that. Okay, so if you are in our workspace over here, you're going to go to website, book, tutorials, object-oriented. Okay, and I'm going to be live coding. So this OOP tutorial, so that's object-oriented programming, is what I'm going to be live coding. And then there's an exercise involving aliens towards the end. So you should already have access to that. So just make sure you run a git pull. And I think that's it before I get started. So I realized that was kind of fast. Maybe, how about we do this? So in the tutorial prompts, how would I say thumbs up when you found the files, and then just react with a thumbs up. And I'll share screen again. Wherever it went. Now it's hiding. There we go. So, oops. So it's home Jovian website. Oh, we want to go to book tutorials. Oops. Seeing some thumbs up. Oops. Tutorials, object-oriented.
Romina, could you make your font bigger for us, please?
Yes. I want to go to settings. Increase text editor font size. That didn't seem to have done anything.
Below you have increased terminal font size.
There we go. That's what I want. Thank you. Okay. So I'm seeing a good number of thumbs up. So I'll give folks another few seconds before we get started. And I think what I'm going to do is open up a blank notebook. While folks are doing that, and I'm going to call this OOP tutorial live. And then that way I can push this and you'll have 2 copies of the same thing. All right. And I think this is where I now want to make my text editor font size larger. That also seems to not be doing anything. Maybe I can just zoom in that way.
think the browser zooming, is that right? Who else remembers the keystroke for increasing the notebook size?
If you're on a Mac, it'd just be Apple Plus.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. Is that an okay font size for folks? Okay, cool. So that being said, I think more or less we've gotten a good number of thumbs up there, and I don't see any more trickling in. So I'm going to assume that means that everyone's on the same page. So I'm going to stop sharing from here. And I'm going to go a little bit old school with some slides. So I want to talk about object-oriented programming for collaborative development. And so I was, oh, I see that there's someone is having issues locating the files. Could I ask one of my helpers to maybe sort that out? Okay. So yeah, I was inspired to make this tutorial because I'm I'm involved in some IcePix adjacent development, and so my team and I are trying to extend IcePix functionality to other data sets, and so coding collaboratively has been a big part of this endeavor. And I wanted to share some of the techniques that we're using in this project that actually stemmed from an ICESat-2 Hackweek project when it was last run. Yeah, and just share some of those techniques with you in hopes that your project can benefit from them as well. So let's break things down. What makes collaborating with others easy? So I'm going to put that in a tutorial prompt. So what makes it easy to collaborate with others? And go ahead and reply in that thread. And I'll also say, what makes it difficult to collaborate with others? And just so they're all over here, I'm going to start making some notes. So good communication and shared vocabulary, I think those kind of fall under same category. Oh, there's lots of setting expectations, access to resources, knowing what other people are doing. I like that one. Trust, communication, but also communication. I like that. Clarity and expectations. I'm seeing a lot of clear communication, access to resources. Getting to know personalities and work style. I'm not going to get all of these on here, but goals, I'm seeing shared goals. Right? Plans to work synchronously, or plans for how to work synchronously. I can speak. So let's put down synchronous or asynchronous. Oops. Constructive feedback. There's lots. Okay. What about things that make it difficult to collaborate? So let's have a look at some of those. Different coding styles, dissimilar levels of skill. So I'll put those in orange. So different coding styles, time zones. Yeah, that's a hard one. So I'm going to put that, that's like a double-edged sword over here with working synchronously or asynchronously. version control makes it difficult. I guess if you're new to it. Selfish ambitions that undercut common goals, so different goals. COVID-19 definitely makes it harder to collaborate. Not understanding team skills and interests, so lack of understanding. Lack of good communication. Okay, so there's a lot of really great things. And so I obviously I'm not gonna have room to write all of these on one slide, but I hope I've highlighted at least most of the key ones that have been kind of echoed. So how do we translate this into writing good code? And so I would argue that writing your code in a modular format can really benefit group work. And so that's exactly what object-oriented coding is. Actually, let me just put it in. There we go. So object-oriented programming, or OOP, allows us to do, just that with code, make it modular. So it modularizes code into chunks that we call objects, or objects. Okay, which is any kind of data field that has unique attributes and behaviors. So when we're writing object-oriented code, you can think of this as working with Lego blocks effectively. So going back to, working synchronously or asynchronously over here, okay, we can think of if everyone can work asynchronously on one of their Lego blocks, and then we can all plug them into each other, then that makes it really easy to work with other people. And so obviously commenting in documentation in your within your own respective Lego block definitely helps with that communication. And so let's take like a little bit of an abstract example. So let's take humans. So humans definitely have attributes and behaviors. And so we can try to quantify or describe some of those things. So we have, so let's start brainstorming some kinds of things that humans have and humans do. So here's my human. Oops, let's write in something a little bit more prominent. Here's my human. Okay. And in Python, this is called a class. And we can think of attributes as things that humans have or has. So these are our attributes. And does. These are our behaviors. All right. So just to give a very simple example, I'm going to go ahead and postulate that every human has a name. We also have some level of energy. Right? We could be pumped and ready to go or in need of a nap. Okay. And we also have friends. So obviously humans are very multifaceted. But I'm going to keep this example fairly simple. And so some things that we can do are move. you know, be that walk, wheel, jump, swim, what have you. We move in some way. We can also sleep to replenish our energy. And we can make friends with others. All right, so we've kind of drawn a picture over here and we've sorted things out into our attributes and behaviors. So these are more specifically, I should call these methods in code talk. So methods are things that our class does or our object does. So let's go ahead into let's go back to my code. And this is the window that I want. So let's start by creating this class human. All right, and so I'll make a note that in Python, or best practice is to capitalize class names. If you can tell by my spelling, I'm joining you from Canada. All right. So we need to initialize an instance of our human class here. And so Python has a built-in initialize function. So when I want to create a new instance of a human, Python is going to look for this init function. So anything that starts and ends with a double underscore in Python is a built-in hidden function that Python is going to be looking for. So like I said, humans, we have names, energy levels, and friends. And so when we initialize a human, you know, when we have a new person, we're going to give them a name. All right. So we're going to refer back to ourself. So that's that instance of human that we're working with. And we're going to say that our name is what the user is passing in as the name field. All right. I'm also going to say that initially we have some full energy level. And I'll just say that's 10 arbitrarily. So we have up to 10 units of energy. And we have friends. And so initially we don't have any friends, but we can definitely make them. So I'm just going to leave an empty list to populate with all the friends that we're going to make. So if I go ahead and run this, and I'm going to say A is a human named Alice. I'll initialize another human, B. This will be another human. This will be, I don't know, Bruno. And C is another human. And we'll call her Chantal. Okay. So we've just initialized 3 different humans. All right. And so when I call this human function over here, this is secretly calling Python's init function. All right. So now let's say I want to print out what a human looks like. So let's print, oops, print. Did I just make this a markdown? I think I just made this a markdown. There we go. Let's print A. And so when I run this, that's not really meaningful to me. Okay, so this is just a reference to where this instance of human is stored in memory. And so I, as the user, that's not helpful to me. So what I want to do is I want to define some kind of string representation of a human that makes a little bit more sense to humans. So Python has a function for that too. And this is going to start and end with a double underscore. So we always have to pass in self to refer to which human we're talking about. And I'm going to say S is my string representation of human. And maybe I want to introduce myself as, hi, my name is, and then I'm going to populate that with my own name. So these curly brackets with a number in between, that's just a Python shorthand. So whatever I put in these brackets in the format function, it's going to stick in here. All right. And then I'm going to return that string. So whenever Python, whenever you call print in Python, it's secretly looking for that object's string representation. So now when I print Alice, oops, I think I need to run that again, run that again, run that again. Oops, I forgot to return S, my bad. Let's try that again. Hi, my name is Alice, and that makes a lot more sense to us as the user. So some other things that I said humans can do is we can move. And maybe we can pass in some distance. All right. And by default, let's make that distance 1 unit. So by putting the equal sign here, it means that this is now an optional parameter. And so if nothing is passed in, then I'm going to assume that distance to be 1. And if I pass something in, then it'll be whatever it is that I pass in. So before we move, we have to make sure that we have enough energy to do so. So let's check our energy level. Sorry, I want if self.energy level is less than distance. Then I'm just going to tell the user that I don't have enough energy to move that far.
Self.
I think that's a really, oh,
Not
is there a
self.
question?
Self energy.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Spelling is not my strong suit. All right. So yeah, we're going to return to the user. I don't have enough energy to move that far. Otherwise, we're going to remove energy. I'm going to subtract that distance from my energy level. So now I can say a dot move. And let's say I want to move a distance of 3. And oops, I want to print dot energy. Let's run this again so I don't move twice. And now my energy is down to 7. So I also want a way of replenishing my energy level. And we said that humans can sleep, right? It's one of my favorite activities. All right. And I'm just going to set my energy level back to 10. So another thing that's important to note here is that functions or methods always end with a bracket, and attributes don't have the bracket. So that's how you can tell the difference between the two. And so now that Alice has slept, our energy level is back at 10. Okay, now what about friends? We said that humans can make friends too. And so hopefully now we can kind of see that, you know, I sort of have these modular things, right? So I have, you know, rather than just all of these actions in one place, I'm splitting them up into chunks. And so if this was a more sophisticated piece of code, then other people could work on different attributes. Okay, so let's make friends. Oops. And I'm going to refer to myself and a friend. Okay, so I have to tell my code with whom I'm making friends. Okay, so I'm going to populate. Oh, I can't spell. IENDS dot append. So I'm going to append to my friends list my new friend. And likewise with my friend, right? Making friends is a mutual thing. We're going to populate their friend list with myself. So now I can do that. And likewise, I can say A dot make friends with B. So Bruno, I'm going to make friends with Bruno, or Alice rather is going to make friends with Chantel. And so then what I can do is for I in A dot friends, I'm going to print dot name. So I'm going to print their name. And maybe here we can say that these are Alice's friends. And likewise, we'll do the same thing for Bruno. Oh gosh. And I'll put a new line character right before that. This is going to be me. So Alice is friends with Bruno and Chantel, and Bruno, even though we didn't explicitly tell Bruno to make friends with Alice, Bruno now has Alice as a friend, because making friends is mutual. All right, so that describes how we can break things up into modular chunks. And hopefully we've learned a little bit of Python syntax and how things work behind the scenes as well. What about the communication side of things? So it's always important to document what your methods do. So this is a string representation of self. Oops, representation. Right? This will reduce energy level equal to distance traveled. If sufficient energy is available. Okay, this will replenish our energy level. You get the idea. And actually, so this one returns a string. And so it's important to document what these strings will, what these methods will return, right? This one doesn't actually give us back anything, so that's just none. And likewise with this one. Okay, and so what you can do if you're working synchronously with people is you can set up this framework. You can talk about all of the different things that you want your code to do and have one person work on one function, one person work on another function, one person work on another function. Okay, and as long as you can all agree on what each of those functions should return, then everyone can work independently on that. And so I know someone mentioned something about coding style. And so each method can be written in your own coding style without conflicting with other people. Again, because this is all modular. So I'm going to go back to my slides. So I'm going to go back to my slides over here. And let's extend this. So maybe we have some kind of general object, right? Like humans, but there are different kinds of humans, right? Humans are, definitely multifaceted beings, and we can have different skills. And, maybe I can do some things that someone else can't, and other people can do things that I don't necessarily have the skills to do. So let's think of in the context of a bakery. So there are different kinds of humans with different roles. And so if we think of the bakery as an example, we have groups of bakers and customers, and they're both humans, but they have different abilities and roles within the context of a bakery. So I'm going to go ahead and post in the Slack channel. So what are things that bakeries have? All right. And what are things that you can do in a bakery? So go ahead and let's start brainstorming some stuff, and then we'll make draw a picture. Croissants, excellent. I love that. Ovens, bagels, scones, sinks, bowls, cash registers. These are all excellent things. A dozen is really 13. All right, and things that you can do in a bakery are bake, enjoy tasty treats, order fancy cakes. You can make friends in a bakery, absolutely. Buy baked goods, knead dough. Fantastic. So in lieu of writing all of these things down, I'm going to draw a picture. And so this is often how I like to start writing code. All right, so here's my bakery. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and say that bakeries have a baker, right? And I'm going to distinguish my baker by giving them a hat. Oh, that's a terrible chef's hat. Okay, this is why I didn't go to art school. All right, and here's our counter with all our yummy treats on it. And we also have customers. All right. And our customers also have some tasty treats that they can enjoy. So just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to assume that our bakery only sells cookies because we have a limited amount of time. And so when we start drawing pictures like this, we can start to distinguish between things that are going to be methods and things that are going to be attributes. Okay, so things in our picture, so objects in the picture are good, is a good indication that it's an attribute. So we have our baker, who is a type of human with special cooking skills. We also have customers who are also humans. Okay. And I have cookies. Cookies are not humans. All right. So I have a bakery, a baker, customers, and cookies. So that's 4 different items in my picture. And so it's likely that I'm going to need 4 different objects to describe those things. Okay, so let's continue our brainstorming again. I'm going to start a blank page. Oops. Ah. Okay, so we have a bakery. And I have to make my table of has and does. So my bakery has a baker. And it also has some number of cookies. So my baker is a human. And we have cookies. And that's going to be some integer, right? We have some integer number of cookies. You know, it's unlikely that a bakery sells half cookies. All right, then we have, our bakery doesn't really do anything, right? It's kind of just a place. So it might not have any methods, but our baker, on the other hand, has, I see someone mention that you can pay in a bakery. So our baker is going to have some kind of commission. And our baker definitely does some things, right? They can make cookies. And sell cookies. All right. And we have a customer. And our customer has money to buy the cookies. And they also have some number of cookies. Now, the customer does buy the cookies. But that's kind of adjacent or the same thing as the baker selling cookies. So these two are going to kind of tie in together. All right. And maybe we had different types of cookies, you know, maybe we had chocolate chip, or my sister makes these excellent Mexican chocolate chip cookies that are a little bit spicy. They're delicious. Or maybe you're a fan of emperor cookies, or sorry, empire cookies, I should say. I don't know, Oreos perhaps, macaron. So maybe we have different kinds of cookies. And then in that case, you would have another kind of cookie object, right? And those things might have their own price. But for the sake of simplicity, let's assume that our bakery only has one type of cookie. So let's go ahead and code this up now. And for the sake of time, I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. I'm not going to be live coding. I'm going to be copy and pasting just so we have a little bit more time. Where did my code go? Over here. Okay, so we've already defined our class of human. Okay. And so let's start from the top of our list. We have to define a bakery, so class. And I'm going to use a capital B because it's a class. Okay. I have to initialize that bakery. So again, I'm just copy and pasting code. Okay. So I'm going to initialize it with some number of cookies and a cost for each of those kinds of cookies. And it's probably also useful to create some kind of string representation, right? So let's, it's over here. Oops. So I have some string representation of my bakery, just as we saw before. Now the baker is going to be a little bit more complicated. So our baker is an instance of human. And so I want my baker to be able to do everything that a human can, right? But not all humans are necessarily bakers, but all bakers are humans. So I'm going to define my class baker. And I'm going to tell Python human that my baker is a human. Okay. And so now when I initialize my baker, okay. Oh, copied the wrong one. Here we go. There we go. Sorry, it's not liking the indentation. Okay, so when I initialize my baker, I still have to give myself a name. And so I'm going to call the superclass, which is human, right? Because a baker is a human, and tell it to initialize a human instance with a name, but that human also has some sales. So I'm extending from class human. All right. And so now if I move on from that, we can make cookies and sell cookies. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that. It's not liking my indentation. Oops. Nope. There we go. Okay. All right, so I've defined a make cookies function over here. This all needs to be indented. Okay, now it should be happy. So my baker is able to make cookies, and so I belong to a bakery, and so I'm going to increase the number of cookies in that bakery by some value n cookies. And I can also sell cookies to a customer from a bakery, and I'm going to sell them some number of cookies. So first I have to make sure that my bakery has enough cookies to sell, and then I have to make sure that my customer can afford those cookies. And if both of those criteria are matched, then I'm going to subtract the number of cookies from the bakery. I'm going to add to my commission. I'm going to subtract that amount of money from my customer, but give them the number of cookies that they asked for. All right. So now I have a class of customer, and customers are also humans, right? And so I'm going to initialize them the same way, but I have to give them a few extra criteria. Oh dear. And it's not happy with the indentation again. So okay, so I'm still going to call that super function and give my customer a name, right? Because a customer is a human, but I'm also going to initialize them with some amount of money, and initially they'll not have any cookies. I'm also going to give my customer a string representation of themselves that's unique to customers. And so I'm going to call my super function. And so they're still going to introduce themselves as, hi, my name is whatever their name is. But I'm going to add to that So that's what this super does. So it's calling the string function from human. And I'm going to add to that, and I have some number of cookies. So if I say that I'm a baker, all right, so I'm going to initialize Romina as a baker, right? I didn't specify a string function for baker. And so everything that human has, a baker also has. So it doesn't know how to say that I'm a baker specifically, but it does know that I'm a human. And so it's going to call the human string function. So hi, my name is Romina. Okay. Now I need a customer to sell things to. So I'm going to take Kelsey as my customer. Okay. And so we're going to say that Kelsey has $10 to start off with. And so when I print Kelsey, it's going to say, hi, my name is Kelsey, and I have 0 cookies. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to sell some cookies. Oh, I have to initialize my bakery, right? I have to define my bakery. So my bakery is going to have 20 cookies initially at $1.25 each. Okay, so this bakery has 20 cookies at $1.25 each. And finally, I'm going to sell those cookies to Kelsey. So let's say Kelsey wants to buy 5 cookies from my bakery. I'm going to sell her those cookies. So now Kelsey has 5 cookies. She has $3.75 left, and the bakery has 15 cookies for sale at $1.25 each. Okay, so like I was saying, I was inspired to write this tutorial because this has helped me and my group continue on from a Hackweek project. So let's save this workspace, stop share. And I'm going to go back to my slides over here. All right, so by breaking things up into this kind of object-oriented framework, I'm not working with bakeries and cookies, but I'm working with data sets. And so, you know, some examples might be a data set has some bounding box, right? So it has a geographical location, and it also has a time at which that data is collected. And so you can create these instances of data and build them together. And so Kelsey now is going to talk a little bit about what we've done here with extending from IcePix. So I'll hand it off to her.
Yeah, thanks, Romina, and for all of those really fun examples. It was great following along and thinking about how it can relate to ICESat-2 data. So as Romina mentioned at the beginning of this tutorial, she and I, along with Jessica and Zach, who are within this Hackweek, were really inspired in part the last Hackweek to try to think about what are some ways within IcePix that we can extend its capabilities beyond just ICESat-2. And so initially that really stemmed from my desire to link oceanographic variables to ICESat-2 in a very simple, easy way, because probably a lot of us are using ICESat-2 not just by itself, but increasing the power of its capabilities by adding in additional data sets. So one thing that we started as a group is creating a Quest class. And so this builds exactly onto this object-oriented programming idea. And you can see it stands for querying, unifying, and exploring spatio-temporal data. And really the idea here is to modulate and incorporate different data sets within IcePix. And so each data set, similar to, within the bakery or within this person like kind of construct, they have different actions and maybe different attributes, but you can call on them and simplify the process. So for example, what we're hoping to link and we're working on at the moment are Argo data that collect information globally around the oceans, and some raster images data, to connect with the point source of ICESat-2. And the idea is that, within IcePix, as Jessica showed earlier, it's really powerful and extraordinarily simple to do some basic querying. And so if you could extend that to say, let's query IcePix to download, for example, HCO3 data within this region, then we also want to see if there's any ocean color imagery or Argo data, or I should mention any other data set that's currently a placeholder with the emoji. But then you can, imagine having something like a data frame where you have this organized coincident data and use it to answer your questions immediately, with the idea that you can adjust and have different flexible bounding boxes and time windows. And so I also wanted to plug, while mentioning this extension for how we're working together, that if anyone is in the Hackweek now and interested in working on this with us, we're really invested in trying to increase what kind of data sets can be added, and also creating templates so that that's a really simple process to do ultimately and be part of the collaborative team. But it's worked really well, I think, in part because Romina's really spearheaded this effort of this object-oriented programming, and it allows us to work on different things at different times and contribute in a way that we're not, working in one flat file all at once, but we can take different pieces and put them together and ultimately have, multiple data sets to query. Romina, I don't know if you would like me to say anything else about that.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that. I missed the last little piece that you said you got cut off.
Oh, is that true for other people as well? I guess the part where I was perhaps plugging data sets or commenting on how the object-oriented programming has been really simple because, like Romina said, if you have different, programming styles, or I'd also mention skill, and also as a way of saying that when I came into the Hackweek last year, I had pretty much zero Python experience. And so it felt intimidating to launch myself into a collaborative team right away. But it was really helpful, especially within this framework, because I could try to work on developing scripts at my own pace. And it wasn't like I was holding anyone back per se. And I know for myself, if I'm feeling that way in a team or I'm not pulling my own weight, that I'll start to internalize that. So this is also, I think, a way of working together that has been really great. And while I mentioned that, I would also say that our group at the Hackweek last year still works together, and we meet once a week, and that if others are feeling like with their Hackweek projects, like they want to explore what they can do as a group and keep working afterward, that it's definitely worthwhile and has been really fun to do that. So.
Great, thanks so much. All right, so I realize that we're running towards the end of our time. And so I'm gonna leave you with an activity that you can work on offline. And so I'll stop sharing here. And let me share. Where did it go? One of the bajillion tabs that I have open. This one. Okay, there we go. Okay. And so I'm going to leave you with this file over here. And it seems that it's not happy with my indentation, so that might need to be fixed. But I can push those changes for you later. But having said all of that, if you want to practice some of these things, I've made a template for you. And so I've defined a class of alien, and I'm going to go ahead and say that all aliens have a name and some energy level. They can also move and sleep just like humans can. And so I challenge you to make your own object-oriented alien. So you can give it a clever name that's more clever than my alien, but it will be a type of alien. And define 2 or more attributes that your alien has, and think of 2 actions or 2 or more actions that your alien can do. And then from there, there's prompts with how to interact with these kinds of things. So I will leave it there for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions offline.